Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. It's Thursday night, uh, August the 23rd. We are coming up on 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:40 p.m. Hawaii time. And I hope you folks that are watching from Hawaii are all safe and uh, dealing with the rains that you've been getting, because that has been the primary issue here. And most of the rains have been on the Big Island. There have been a few changes during the evening hours that I'm going to touch upon, and first off, we're going to take a look at the National Hurricane Center's official forecast, and this is the forecast that you should pay attention to. Uh, the you want to make sure that you always go to the Weather Service with regards to forecasts uh, when it comes to tropical storms and hurricanes. So just give me 1 second here. I'm going to put this up on the top and let you know that there's been a change for the Big Island, in that we have the hurricane warning has been changed to a tropical storm warning. And I think this kind of makes sense because of the fact that the core of the storm is going to probably pass to, to the west of the Big Island, at least far enough where wind is not going to be the biggest issue. The biggest issue is going to be the rain, and it already has been, because uh, parts of the south shore of the Big Island of Hawaii have seen 10 to 15 inches of rain, or possibly even more. I'm going to show you what the Doppler radar is telling us with regards to rainfall amounts. Hurricane warnings are up for Maui and on westward toward Oahu, and the westernmost islands are still under a hurricane watch. There really hasn't been too much change in the philosophy regarding the overall track of hurricane lane, now moving northwestward very slowly, and it's very slowly weakening. And there's going to come a point where the storm will get weak enough where it will be no longer responding to the steering winds in the higher levels of the atmosphere, but instead will begin to respond to the lower level easterly winds that will hook it toward the west. And just about all of the models show this. So we've got the turn here. The problem is the timing of this. We have to get to that critical point in the weakening of the storm where it's weak enough to respond to those easterlies, and we don't exactly know when that is. If the storm were to hold on to its strength or for a little while longer, and we're only talking really a handful of hours, if we're seeing something that's moving at 7 or 8 miles an hour, and it delays the turn by about 7 or 8 hours, you're talking about an additional 50 to 60 miles further north, and that would put the core of the weakening storm very close to some of the islands before it makes the turn. Either way, with a track like this, rains are going to be spreading westward across the rest of Maui. There have been rains on and off all day through Maui on westward to Oahu, and even into some of the western islands. But the very heavy rains have really been concentrated over the Big Island of Hawaii. And here's the water vapor imagery, and you'll notice that through the loop here, how stretched out the hurricane is becoming. It's becoming elongated north-south. The core is getting disrupted. You no longer have that look like you had yesterday where it looked like a buzzsaw. That is long gone. The shear, the strong winds aloft, are really beginning to take its toll. And if you look at the clouds that are to the southwest, they're moving northeastward. Those are the strong winds that are at the middle levels of the atmosphere that are getting involved here, and basically beginning to rip the thunderstorms apart. That uh, forwards the weakening process in the hurricane. And again, the key is going to be how long does it take to get weak enough where it starts to respond to those low-level easterlies. Here's a closer view here of where the core is relative to the Big Island of Hawaii, and you can see that it is fairly far offshore, or at least far enough offshore that The rains have been an issue. There's also been a little interesting development, I think, with there's some kind of low that's to the east of Lane, and you can see it here on the water vapor imagery. I can actually see the rotation on the visible. If you take a look, there looks like there's a little weak low-level circulation in there of some sort. I'm not exactly sure what this is. Either way, this will probably wind up getting absorbed getting absorbed by Lane, but this moisture could very well find its way over into the Big Island as it gets involved in the circulation. That would be the most likely outcome here. But there might be some impact going on with that weak low-level center that is out to the east. Now, these are the Doppler radar estimates of the rainfall. And you have the scale on the bottom. Let me make sure that you guys can see this as well as I can. And see that area here up on the northeastern part of the South Shore near Hilo, or just inland of Hilo. There's this purple area. That's 10 inches of rain that's measured, and the reds are anywhere from 5 inches and higher. This is through 5:19 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, so it's relatively recent. We're coming up on 6 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. And be advised, by the way, again, if you're watching this during the night, the radars that you're seeing are dated. The advisory information is as of the 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time advisory. So you want to make sure you check with the Central Pacific Hurricane Center website for later advisories. The next one will be out at 8 p.m. Here's the actual loop of the precipitation. And there is quite a bit of rain, some heavy rains, some very heavy rains, in fact, in the yellows and reds coming in. And of course, a lot of this is being enhanced by the mountainous terrain. So it's quite likely that there are some local areas that have gotten double what the Doppler estimates are picking up on. And that continues to come in from the southeast. And further offshore, you see another big heavy band. That partly could be with that little weak circulation that is out to the east. The outlined area there you see that's boxed off, that is the flash flood warning that was issued earlier today and has just been continually expanded as the day goes on. We'll move up to the Kaloha radar and load this up, and you can see the rains coming off. The first radar we showed you, you don't see the radar echoes on the other side of the island toward the north shore. This radar view picks them up quite well, and that rain is getting into the north shore and offshore and on toward the island of Maui. And with respect to Oahu and Honolulu, we'll jump over there and show you the radars at the moment, also showing bands of heavy rain that are coming in. Well, there isn't it's more light to moderate rain that's in the areas further to the west, but there are some heavier rain bands that are showing up. So certainly the radars are very, very busy here with regards to the rainfall, and you've got all day tomorrow to deal with this as well. We are going to have to wait for this storm to just get out of the way, and judging by the forecast, it is forecast to go below major hurricane status shortly. The 5 p.m. advisory at 17.8 north, 157.9 west, top winds 120 miles an hour, moving north-northwest at 6. Okay, so it keeps the northerly, it's gaining more and more latitude, but moving very, very slowly. Again, this is the 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time advisory. So just a reminder, tropical storm warnings are up now for the Big Island, along with the flash flood warning, as rain is the big deal here. And the hurricane warnings continue for Maui, Oahu, and the islands to the west continue to be under a hurricane watch. Notice as it turns to the west, it weakens to a tropical storm by 2 p.m. Sunday on the forecast, and then gradually weakens even further to a tropical depression. It's quite possible, by the way, that the weakening, if it occurs faster, that you could see this wind up becoming a remnant low a lot faster than what's being indicated by the current forecast. But also, I want to remind everybody the caveat the other way is that if the weakening for some reason is slower to occur, then you may wind up seeing this come further north before you eventually take that turn toward the west. I'll bring up, courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com, which is a great weather website, by the way, run by Levi Cowan. He's very kind to let us share his wonderful maps. And he, along the top menu, if you could click on current storms, all the tropical storms and hurricanes that are going on around the world are listed on this page. But we can take a look at the model forecast guidance here. These are the hurricane tracking models that are used by hurricane forecasters, and from the beginning, from where it is now, they're clustered together, but there is variation in terms of the timing of the turn. The Hurricane Center is actually, if you look at the consensus models, they're making the turn a little sooner and a little further south and west of where the tracking models are, at least what seem to be the majority of them, that take it very, very close to Maui and Oahu, and some actually bring it up almost to the shore before making that left turn. Notice, by the way, there are some that actually take it to the right first, to the northeast, and then hook it back to the west. That's why this weakening that we're talking about is so critical. And you'll notice on the top, do not use this map to make decisions, seek official info. And I can't emphasize that enough when it comes to tropical storms and hurricanes. It should be, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center and your local government officials regarding action that you may need to take. Here is these are the models that are used to try to forecast intensity. You'll notice that they all have it weakening relatively quickly, some faster than others, but you have a number of models that have this down to category 1 status by tomorrow night. Okay, so that's pretty quick. That's fairly fast weakening if the wind shear is increasing, and if that wind shear continues to increase, then that may very well happen. But if for some reason it takes a little longer, then some of the models are a little bit slower in bringing those intensities down, not having them at minimal hurricane strength or below minimal hurricane strength until sometime during the day, Saturday. Then that turn to the west is going to take a bit longer to occur. The latest GFS model should be out far enough at this point, so we can take a look at that, because the GFS model has been the one model that has been the furthest to the right with all of this. And we'll see what the new one does. So here we have it. This is at 2 a.m., centered roughly at 18 and 157.9 according to the model. And when I say 2 a.m., by the way, I'm sorry, I mean 2 a.m. my time. So that would be 8 p.m. your time. And this would be at 2 a.m. I'm trying to do, it's so hard for me to do the Greenwich math. I'm so used to just immediately, reflexively taking off the 5 hours it's for me. So I have to take off another 6 for you. So I have to subtract 11 hours for the standard time. So this is at 8 a.m. my time, 2 a.m. your time. Then we go to 8 a.m. your time on Friday, and then from there it's 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon. And the GFS has actually come a little bit further to the west, but takes it uh, very close to Maui and to Oahu and almost right over the islands and weakens it. At this point, it's probably a tropical storm. And as we move into the early morning hours of Saturday, we get that hook to the west. So there, the changes in the models are small, but they're important because of the relatively short distance that we're talking about with respect to land. So the weakening uh, happens faster, we turn to the left quicker. If it happens a little slower, that turn is likely to be delayed. They're never fun and they're never easy. I never did look at to see what the total accumulated precip, if it does show it for the islands. There is a max area here of 10 inches or more, but I'd be very cautious. I just to put it up just to see, uh, but I would be very cautious in using a map like this, if only because of the fact that the model doesn't really ever get the scale of the rain that actually occurs in situations like this. It doesn't have the ability to really pick up on the local effects, the terrain, the mountainous terrain, and that warm, moist tropical air and all that lifting that goes on just can produce some really excessive amounts in some places. So when this is all said and done, if there are going to be some 20 and 30-inch amounts in some of the mountainous terrain areas, that would not be at all a shock to me, since, as we said, on the Big Island, as you saw on the radar estimates from earlier, we were pretty much already there. So I think that pretty much is going to sum it up. I don't really see uh, too much else really that at this point, it's just really kind of a matter of letting it all play out. It's uh, it's just one of those things when you're trying to forecast these things that can be uh, extremely challenging with regards to the outcome. But you do the best you can, and I give a lot of credit to the hurricane forecasters at the Central Pacific Hurricane Center and at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, because um, the tracking the forecast tracks forecasting tracks of these storms has gotten much better over the years. The tracks are very good. The margins of error continue to shrink, but intensity has always been a very, very big forecasting issue, and it is a dilemma. Uh, every We saw a couple of days ago. It looked like the models were indicating that, yeah, weakening should occur, and in fact, it strengthens to a category 5 and before it reaches its peak. And it's very, very hard to forecast something to go to a category 5. You don't want to pull that trigger necessarily. So I give the forecasters a whole lot of credit. That's why they're your go-to people. For those of you that are watching from Hawaii, that's where I think you should be as far as getting your official information. Kauai Construction, aloha to you. Really appreciate your insight. Read all this data, very helpful. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I get such a kick out of the fact that I've had some folks from the Hawaiian Islands on here. The islands are beautiful. I've been there before. It is one of the prettiest places on earth, in my never to be humble opinion. And I'm sure hopefully it'll all come out for the best, and you'll work your way through it, and that there won't be any other ones this year. This is unusual. Hurricanes affecting the Hawaiian Islands are rare in terms of direct hits. There have been a number of storms over the years that have been hurricanes and have passed close. There have been a number of storms that have headed toward Hawaii and then have sort of magically weakened before they have gotten there. And the direct hits you can almost count on your hand. So you've got this sort of natural protection for where you are, but this one is getting close. Cato in Hawaii from the Big Island. I'd be curious. Welcome tonight again. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. I'd be curious about the rain that you've experienced where you are. We were showing the Doppler radar amounts before from the Big Island, and there are some 10 to 15-inch amounts just inland from Hilo. And the Doppler radar is certainly showing some pretty generous rainfalls all along the South Shore. You've got flash flood warnings that are up there. So I would be curious as to what you are experiencing. Ocean water temps, says Joe Garcia, in the Pacific are above normal. They are a bit above normal. They're not crazy above normal like they were during the El Nino year back in 16. But they are running a degree or two above normal, so that doesn't really help matters. The ocean water temperatures around Hawaii, from what I saw, um, were a little bit above average. But I think the water temperatures are having as far as the impact on the storm is concerned, it's really that wind shear that is having the biggest impact. I think the second biggest impact is going to be the terrain. The mountainous terrain will disrupt the circulation, and then water temperatures will be probably the lowest in importance regarding its impact on the intensity at this stage of the game. Cato says heavy rain all day, light winds, and some gusts. Yeah, rain does not figure to be, I'm sorry, the wind does not figure to be the biggest problem here unless we get that storm to slow its weakening and it comes very, very close to some of the islands. And flooding is going to be the biggest concern. U7885. I agree. The rain is the biggest deal here. And we all gas, no brakes. Also hoping that everyone in Hawaii stays safe. The main circulation, says Inquisitor Mickey, is still over 60 miles from the Big Island and around 200 miles from Honolulu, and the impacts already severe to extreme. Certainly from the standpoint of rain, that is quite true. And there are some more torrential rains on the radar coming in and sweeping in from off the Pacific Ocean. Okay, folks, I think we'll wrap it up here. Again, just to repeat, the information you're seeing here is all based around the 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time advisory, and the radars that I showed you were about right around a 5:45 Hawaii Standard Time. So if you are watching this on a replay later on this evening or tonight, you're going to see dated radars and satellite loops. So be sure to go to your Central Pacific Hurricane Center, and you can access that by going to weather.gov. And of course, you can get all your local forecasts from your National Weather Service website for Hawaii, which you can also access from weather.gov. You'll see the map of the United States on there. You'll see the map of Hawaii. Just click on the island areas and you'll bring up the local forecast office so that you can see what's going on and pull up the latest radars. And of course, you can get all the latest information online. Just to go over to the Central Pacific Hurricane Center for all of that. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great evening. Please be safe if you're watching from Hawaii. And we'll update you on Hurricane Lane on Friday, dayside.